There's a difference between a bag that looks prepared and a bag that actually works. And most people don't find out which one they built until it's too late to fix it. You've probably seen the checklists online. Grab a backpack, toss in a bottle of water, a flashlight, maybe a blanket, call it done. It feels responsible. It looks complete, sitting in the closet. But a bag that looks the part and a bag that actually holds up for 72 real hours are two very different things. And the gap between them usually comes down to a handful of categories that new campers and first-time preppers consistently get wrong. So let's go through this properly, one category at a time, and fix the parts that usually get overlooked. Start with water. A lot of people try to solve 3 days of water by just packing 3 days of water. The problem is that a single adult needs roughly a gallon a day to stay functional. And once you multiply that across a family, the weight becomes unmanageable fast. Carrying enough water isn't really the goal. Having a way to keep getting safe water is. That means a small filter, a few purification tablets, and something to actually hold the water once it's treated. If you're pulling from a stream, a tap that's lost pressure, or any source you're not sure about, treat it first. There's no way to guarantee perfect safety in every situation, but a simple filter turns a risk into a backup supply instead of a gamble. Fire follows a similar pattern. Most bags have exactly one lighter, and that's the whole plan. It works fine in a demonstration video. It doesn't work as well when your hands are cold, the lighter's wet from rain, or it's just out of fuel at the worst possible moment. Wind alone can turn a 2-second task into a 10-minute problem. The fix is having 2 different fire methods that don't depend on each other. Something mechanical like a lighter, and something that doesn't need fuel at all, like a striker or waterproof matches. And it's worth actually practicing this before you ever need it, not figuring it out for the first time in bad weather. Always keep local fire restrictions and fire bans in mind too, since a real emergency doesn't excuse ignoring basic safety rules. And that brings up something worth pausing on. A lot of the earliest mistakes people make in a bag like this come from the same root cause, relying on a single item to cover an entire need. One bottle for water, one lighter for fire. It works until it doesn't, and there's no warning before it fails. Shelter is next, and this one gets misunderstood constantly. People assume shelter means a full tent, so if there's no tent, they figure that category's not really their problem. But the real goal of shelter is simpler than that. Stay dry, stay out of the wind, and stay off cold ground when you need to. That's it. A compact tarp, some paracord, a poncho, or a small emergency bivvy can do all of that without adding real weight to the bag. And shelter isn't only for the woods. If the power goes out at home for an extended stretch, or you're stuck waiting in a car during bad weather, that same setup keeps you protected right where you are. Now let's talk about food. And this is where a lot of otherwise solid bags fall apart. The common mistake is packing food that assumes ideal conditions, something that needs to be cooked, needs clean water added, or needs utensils you might not have on hand. In a real short-term situation, that assumption doesn't always hold. The fix is prioritizing food that's shelf-stable, ready to eat, calorie-dense, and simple enough to eat straight out of the packaging. There's also a psychological side to this that people underestimate. Familiar, comforting food matters more than people expect when everything else feels uncertain. And it's worth actually testing your food choices ahead of time. If you've never eaten it, don't assume you'll want to eat it under stress. Here's the pattern worth noticing by this point. A good 72-hour bag isn't really a collection of items. It's a system, built one category at a time, where each piece is covering a real need instead of just filling space. If you want the full 72-hour checklist, gear categories, and practical camping methods organized in one place, I left the complete camping guide bundle in the description. Now, warmth. And this one is more about strategy than gear. A single blanket isn't a warmth plan, it's one piece of one. Real warmth comes from a system. Layering to trap air near the body, blocking wind so that warm air doesn't get pulled away, and creating separation from cold ground, which pulls heat out of the body faster than most people expect. An emergency blanket alone can't do all of that on its own. And staying dry matters just as much as adding layers, because wet insulation stops working almost entirely. A thin base layer, a warm mid-layer, and something wind-resistant on top will outperform one thick item almost every time. Before moving into communication, it's worth remembering that physical comfort isn't the only thing keeping someone safe. Good information does too. Most people assume their phone will just work when they need it most. But if power's been out for a while, or the signal's unreliable, that assumption becomes a real liability. A small hand crank or battery radio, a way to charge a phone that doesn't depend on the grid, and a written list of emergency contacts close that gap. This isn't about ditching your phone. It's about having a backup so one dead battery doesn't cut you off from information that actually matters. And finally, documents, which almost nobody thinks about until they need them. Copies of identification, insurance information, emergency contacts, and any relevant medical basics, kept together in a small, waterproof pouch, save real time and stress later. A little cash in smaller bills is worth having too, since cards and machines don't always work when the power's out. None of this needs to be complicated. It just needs to be organized and easy to grab. So here's the real takeaway. The goal was never to carry more weight. It was to remove the single points of failure hiding in a bag that only looks complete. One bottle, one lighter, one blanket, one assumption that the phone will work. That's what quietly turns a prepared-looking bag into one that fails at the worst possible time. If you want a simple way to review your own setup before your next trip or emergency plan, the guide bundle is linked below. Some links may be affiliate links, which means I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Being ready isn't about fear, and it's not about doing the most. It's about checking each category honestly and fixing the gaps calmly before they ever get tested for real.